Welcome, everybody. Where's Sarah? You're saying. Well, Sarah is traveling. So today I get to give some messages that she wanted me to give to you. But welcome, everybody. So happy you're with us. I hope that you've been following us all year, either like this, there was one live one, or looking at the recordings. And this is Kai, of course. I think you've met her before, and she is the right hand of all of this. And she'll be managing the Q&A after and made all this happen, because you might guess that I'm not exactly a tech whiz, so I needed help always. So Sarah wanted me to tell you, first of all, thank you all for joining. Second, to remind you, this is the last session for 2023. We've had six of these, and it's been. I'm going to review them a little bit too. Again, what we did, but it's been a marvelous year for me personally, and I hope for most of you. And lastly, that this session, as the others, is being recorded and it will be placed in the MTL, she said. I assume you know what the MTL is. I don't know that abbreviation, but that will be in the MTL the week of December 4th. And so there's Sarah, and she again welcomes all of you. And of course, I do, Kai does. And I think we're about ready to proceed.
Yeah, and I see someone that might have raised their hand. So please just enter in chat if you have a question or you're having um, uh, issue hearing us. Sometimes it's your microphone or speakers just have to connect a different way. But please just put in chat any questions and I'll answer those.
If there's anything before we begin that we need to address that maybe has to do with technology or something, please feel free to tell me, Kai.
Yeah, I will.
And so here we are. This is number six for us, and you all know me by now. And I've met some of you when I was there in Arizona, but not enough. And I'm hoping that in 2024, Sarah and I are still put crossing T's and dotting the I's on what Blue Star will be offering and Trilogy will be offering in 2024. But it will be there, and I'll be part of it. So I look forward to that, and I hope that I can meet you. So for 2023, we have been dealing with the how of healthy longevity. Healthy longevity, you all know, is staying at the highest level of performance and the best level of health that you can for as long as possible. And we have been doing that. We first looked at the why of why do you want to do this, because you shouldn't be doing anything until you've looked at the why of it. And then for the last four sessions, this is the fourth, the last three sessions, now this one, we have been focused like a laser on resilience, because indeed resilience is the trait that allows us to have a healthy longevity. You remember, because life throws curveballs at us, and the ability to bounce back is basically resilience. And we've been talking about how do you develop that resilience. I think we all, as I've said before, resilience got our attention during COVID when our entire life was disrupted, just about every aspect of it. And that required resilience in order to get through that, to continue to grow, to stay healthy, and to do all you did to maintain that resilience. So the four-part series, the first one we looked at resilience in general, and we defined it, of course, the ability to bounce back, both in an engineering point of view, but more importantly with humans. And it was also even more importantly that it was the capacity to be able to minimize the damage or the insult or the disruption that happens when life throws a curveball. And I'm going to throw on my glasses here. And when disease and injury comes our way. So that's pretty easy to understand, not so easy to always have. So as I said, there we are. We don't want to go the way of the bowl line. We want to go the way of the dotted line, which is both quantity and quality of life. Or more quantity, more quality. But when life throws a curveball, to be able to bounce back, maybe not where we were, but as far back up as far as possible. That's what we're looking for. Remember, Ashley Montague said, die young, as late as possible. That's what we're trying to do here. We saw that the most common traits of resilient people from this very iconic book, The Resiliency Advantage, which pretty much started all of our conversation on resilience a couple decades ago. But these were the traits, and we went through them about, and you'll hear more today: mindfulness, positive outlook, all of these things, which seemed intuitive, but sometimes we forget, and sometimes we get a little rusty in some of these things. But they're all doable. And so just as resilience and growing resilience is doable. Some people, as we had mentioned probably in the first time during this one, that many people think I'm resilient or I'm not. Well, no, that's true. For some people, they're born with more resilience than another, but everyone can develop and grow their resilience. And that's what we're meant to do. And then after that first session, we decided to hone in on resilience and to go even further. So our second part two was about stress, resilience, and healthy longevity. Stress, probably the largest threat we have to our resilience, to our health, to our quality of life, to our relationships. It is just huge. Remember, because our ancestors didn't deal with this kind of stress. The stress they had was managed by our fight or flight mechanism. And it was, when we had a stress, we say, like a lion in our path, we fought that lion or we ran from that lion. But in either case, it was going to be the best that we could do. And then it was meant to be something that lasted only a certain length of time, and that it required us to do something. But now it's in our world all over. It's in our world more than ever because, unfortunately, as you remember me saying, most of the stress, in fact, just about all of the stress that you experience is self-induced. Yes, self-induced. That doesn't mean there aren't stressful situations out there. There are, but how we respond to it. So, for instance, you see one person get a flat tire and they're raging on the side of the road and they're yelling and they're cursing the tire gods and, looking at their watch. And someone else says, okay, it's a flat tire, and changes it themselves, or calls for help and gets it changed, and never raises their pulse. So it's how we respond to a stressful situation that causes our stress. Unfortunately, as I said, we humans have the ability to to create stress, to create a stressful situation with our thoughts. So our thoughts drive our emotions, which then, unfortunately, sometimes drive our behavior without us thinking about it. We'll be talking about that today. That's what emotional intelligence is all about. So many of these things are related. We've been talking about all the aspects of stress, being healthy, healthy longevity, and they're also interrelated. So many of the things that we say for one, we also say for the other, because we are holistic beings. We're not fractionated human beings. Unfortunately, that's what we did in medicine. We broke down the human into the cardiovascular system, the neurologic system, the musculoskeletal system, and GI. And in so doing, we forgot the fact that this is one person and holistic, and it's happening in the context of that person's life. We're getting it back, and that's going to be a good thing. But we lost it for a while. I'm going to talk about the three options a little later, again, because it's so important. But when faced with a stressful situation, only three things to do: fix it or make a plan. Remember, our response to stress was supposed to be time limited. The zebra gets chased by a lion. If he survives, he's out there grazing right after, because his response was for a short time. We unfortunately carry it around with us as a backpack, and sometimes for our lives, where we remember something that causes stress and which eats us from within and threatens all of our organs and our health. So fix it or make a plan to fix it. Secondly, walk away, because it's really not a problem that you can do anything about. And the third one is the one we most likely do, is to accept it. So that's what we did for that second one on stress. And the third one was about mindset, resilience, and healthy longevity. That was the last time we met. And this is critically important because how we look at the world determines how we're going to respond to the world. It really determines our ability to bounce back, our ability to show resilience. It reflects our relationships and whether we live in a bubble or we throw up walls or we're open-minded and want to grow. There's a fixed mindset, which basically says, I am what I am. I can't do much better than that. And I can't do that. I was never meant to do that. That's something I'm not good at. And also to be resistant to new ideas and to change and become xenophobic. Namely, they don't like to be with others who are maybe look at the world a little differently. Whereas a growth mindset is one that's is all of those things, where where you're looking outward, you accept change is there, and you respond to it appropriately. You know it's going to happen. You're ready to learn. You know that your learning and your growth is dependent upon how much effort you put into it, and so it is a very healthy thing. You can imagine that when life throws a curveball, that a fixed mindset, unable to be flexible, unable to bounce back, unable to learn from it, unable to see the good in it. Didn't we all at least see a little good in COVID? I think we did. There were some things that, because our life was disrupted, that we were actually better. It refocused us. It refocused our values. Those are good things. Definitely lots of horrible things, very horrible things. But as with anything, it depends upon how you look at it. So today, we're on the fourth part, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence, resilience, and healthy longevity. Now, emotional intelligence is very much related to everything that's gone before in our resilience course, the stress aspect and the mindset aspect. And so you will see some of this, and some of the things I say will sound familiar because I have said them before. And that's impossible to avoid because, again, we are holistic beings, and resilience is a holistic trait, one that requires us to look at all the aspects of our being, the physical, intellectual, the social, everything, and especially meaning and purpose. And so I think this is going to be something that I certainly hope is going to be educational and revealing to you and hopefully motivating, but also not as unfamiliar as maybe the first or second or even third session was. Again, because some things you will have heard before. So, first of all, let's talk about emotions. Normal adaptive mental and physical feeling states that direct our attention and guide our behavior. Okay, all right. Well, that's a definition. But what are they really? They're really meant for us. They're automatic, they're very fast, and they were meant for our survival. Remember, 99% of the time we've been hunter-gatherers. We haven't lived in the kind of society that we live in today. Usually small tribes, small knit groups, or small little towns. And, most of the things that we had to deal with, it was a slower pace of life, remember? And most of the things we had to deal with, we had great social support. But pretty much now, many of us feel alone, even if we're not, and things come at us at a very rapid pace because our lives are run at a very rapid pace. We don't know everything we should about emotions, but again, they cause us to act quickly, something that will help our survival and hopefully can not only have us survive, but today emotions and how we manage them reflect very solidly on our relationships with others and our place in life and our very success in life. Because again, to be successful in almost all fields, even, just parents, and I don't mean even parents, that's probably the hardest job in the world, but even for people who are not out in the world regularly, our emotions are key. They are absolutely key. So once again, we have this chart. So remember, there can be an external thing that happens, the flat tire, say, and your emotion is driven by your thoughts about that flat tire. And so if it's an automatic thing and you're having a bad day, you may just, quotes, lose it. And that's what we're talking about here. Emotional intelligence, EQ for short, is about not coming to a point where you lose it where you lose control over your behavior, that the emotions are so strong and you're not able to intervene, that indeed your behavior gets you into trouble. So the flat tire, I mean, someone can rail against it, they can get crazy, they can not be paying attention and, possibly get injured by a bypassing car. So many things can happen. Whereas if someone says, okay, this is something I have to accept, it's real. What I do now is to respond to it in a thoughtful way. What is the best way? Should I change it? Shall I call someone to help me change it? Shall I get the car in a safe spot? All of these things. So again, it's how we respond. And they're all related. Behavior can drive thoughts, so that someone else's behavior or our behavior can sort of cause our thoughts to get even stronger, be like a something that just throws wood on the fire of our thoughts, which throws wood on the fire of our emotion. And anyone who's ever, quotes, lost their temper to a point where they did something they deeply, deeply regret, they were in this, and they actually lost control. Their EQ, their emotional intelligence, was at a minimum, because they were acting automatically to the thought or something that actually happened, with emotions that just ran rampant and caused behavior to be something less than what they would have otherwise. And this all happens because emotions are in this area, the limbic system, some in the cortex also, but they're automatic. And these are things that are survival things in this limbic system, the mammalian brain, the middle brain. There's the reptilian brain really down low, and that's sort of a basic brain that is like almost every living thing has. But what every living thing doesn't have is the cortex, which we have. And in that cortex, marvelous things. It's both a curse and a blessing. Blessing because we are able to discern, again with the flat tire, that look, this just happens, and I can deal with it, and here's how I'm going to deal with it. But it also is a curse if indeed we begin, say, to imagine that something is happening. I can't use the flat tire as much, although I could, but that someone else is saying something derogatory about you. They're attacking you. You feel attacked. You feel singled out. You feel uncertain and angry and vulnerable, and you respond automatically, for like as in a survival mode, and causes emotions to drive behavior that gets you into trouble, losing your temper, so to speak. It's not that we don't lose our temper, but most of us can block it somewhere in that triangle, so that the behavior isn't something that ends us up in jail or whatever. So this is what happens with the automatic emotions. They can drive us like a raging river and just take us over. And emotional intelligence is about the ability to manage that possibility. So we have emotions, they drive we have thoughts, we have things that happen in the world that drive our emotions, and then drive our behavior, that can be automatic because that's the way it is in our nature for survival. But also, because of our brain, we can intervene in that and prevent things from getting out of hand, losing temper, losing it, so to speak. All kinds of emotions. There are many, many. We all experience them. So how we do that is to develop our emotional intelligence, our EQ. EQ is not like IQ, the intelligence quotient. EQ is something that we can definitely grow and feed and allow to become much much stronger and more sophisticated, more nimble. And so we can do that with the knowledge that we can. First of all, there's the knowledge. I don't have to accept that my emotions run me. I can intervene, and then learn skills to do that. And again, to be aware of it. So it's the ability, EQ, there's the definition: perceive, understand, and manage and handle emotions. But it's not only your emotions, it's also, as this this definition says it's be able to navigate the interpersonal relationship judiciously and empathetically. So we're really looking about understanding the emotions of others. If you're in a situation and you discern that that person is angry and is degrading you, well, you're going to respond to that. But if you understand, if you're able to discern their emotions and say that's really not what's happening here, this person is just uncertain or whatever. Or I know this person, I know they would never do that, and we're able to prevent that automatic wild river from just taking us over and doing something that we would definitely regret. So it's about understanding emotions, yours and others. It's the perception of them in you and in others, and it's managing them. Okay, and it's actually using your emotions. In many cases, you can use them to great advantage, and create an emotional intelligence that allows you to much more likely to be successful in relationships and careers, in your journey with your health and achieving a healthy longevity. So emotional intelligence has skills that it actually requires. Okay, so self-awareness is first. We absolutely have to know what's happening within us to be able to observe it. This is mindfulness. Remember, you've heard that so many times in previous presentations that we've made. The mindfulness to be able to be self-aware of what's happening within me. I'm having an emotion that can very easily become a raging river, and I understand what's happening, and it's not going to happen. That I can stop it at the between the thought and emotion, or after the emotion, to be able to mute the emotion somewhat, so that my actions will be appropriate. It's self-regulation. That's what I was just talking about. It's social skills. Someone with EQ has social skills. We talk about that, but what does it really mean? It does mean the ability to have empathy, to put yourself in the other person's shoes, to because of body language as well as regular language, to be able to discern what's happening in that person, what is probably going on in the mind of that person, and be able to respond to that in a way that, if indeed could potentially get out of hand, to be able to manage that with the social skills, to as something as easy as saying, if there's an argument, you could be right. You're not saying they are right. You're not waffling or anything, but you say, you could be right, and using social skills so as not to throw wood in the fire of that other person's raging river. Empathy, of course, we've mentioned, and it's the motivation to do that. I want to have good relationships. I don't want to lose my temper. I want to be peaceful in my life as much as possible, because those things are associated with high quality of life and high health situation. So So these are the most common traits of resilient people. Once again, we'll see it. Now, emotional intelligence reflects, I believe, on all the red ones, actually all of them, but particularly for the ones in red here. Mindfulness, because as I was mentioning, the ability to discern your emotions, to be present in the moment with the other person, and be able to discern what is really happening here, to have a positive outlook, to look at a situation as half full, something like even like COVID, and be flexible. A mindset that's fixed is inflexible, and inflexibility is not a way to make friends and get along with people, or to be successful. We know that things that are inflexible in nature break, and it's the same with us. Concern for others is an absolute given. Of course, if we don't care about others, and unfortunately, that is a very, very difficult situation, and in fact, it borders on mental illness, and that is only results in isolation, which even further tends to make people, negative, half empty sort of people, even paranoid, and and to keep people away, and we don't do well when we're isolated. And a sense of humor, because boy, that is a remedy. That is the secret treatment for so much of what ails us in our relationships, in our even not close relationships, even, we're so divided as a society today. A sense of humor relative to this, and a real desire to understand other people could go a long way to solving a lot of the difficulty that we have today. Now, emotional intelligence, if it sounds a lot like emotional confidence, which is one of the pillars of Trilogy, you're right. It basically is. It is essentially the same. And this is how Trilogy and Blue Star defined emotional confidence. If you remember last year, we had a session on this. And, I love this one because it's comfortable with ourselves and comfortable with others being themselves as well. You have heard me say one of the best ways to be a social, connected rock star is to be able to give up the need to be right, but more importantly, to give up the need for someone else to be wrong. And it's about tolerance, it's about empathy, it's about understanding, it's about emotional intelligence, and that is not a way to be successful in life. It's a way to get more isolated, and we know that that's not not conducive to a healthy longevity. So kindness, introspection, empathy, we foster our environment where everyone can flourish. Everyone. We're very egocentric, namely that we tend to look at the world with our understanding. It's just us. And we have to do that. But to the extent that we are open and we try to understand other people and are empathetic, that gets us away from that. But if we just go through the world where we only care about us and what we need and what we want, um, that this is some people might call that freedom, to do what you need to do, but you're not going to go through a red light. You shouldn't anyway. And that's something I want to do because I'm in a hurry. Well, you can't. I mean, there are other people out there, and when we understand that, and when we tolerate that, and when we want everyone to flourish, that gives us a different perspective. So I'm going to give you 5 ways to build a powerful resilience. Now, all of this is sort of an amalgamation of many of the suggestions to build emotional confidence, to build the spiritual strength, physical and intellectual, all the things we talked about last year and this year. And so I think these are all basically new, but what I've done is to condense them. So these are the ways to build powerful resilience, which is an absolute necessary thing for a healthy longevity and even to be successful in the world, never mind just with health. So here you are. Once again, wherever you are, be there. Be there. That's mindfulness. This is the very root of resilience. And more than that, it's the root of quality of life and health. You know, life is really a series of moments. And if we miss those moments, we miss life. Now, let's drill down because, we can all say, oh, yeah, that sounds good. But even while I'm talking here, your mind was probably wandering. You were thinking about what you had to do. You were thinking about, your grandchildren. You're thinking about the world. Your mind was wandering. You were maybe multitasking. And, okay, we do those things. But when we're present, that's when we are fully living. We are, and whenever you are present, remember I asked people who drew, who were artists, how they felt. First of all, what happened to time and it went away. And we can't be stressed when there's no sense of time. And how did they feel? And, the answers were all positive, happy, joyful, content, fulfilled. And that is being present. And we can't always be present. It's just not in our, with our brains. It's just not something we can do. But we should look for those opportunities to be present. Those moments where we're aware, but we don't have thoughts racing around or judgments racing around in our head at the same time. We're just there, drawing, meditating with a pet, walking in the woods, maybe swimming, being with children for a short time. So this is absolutely critical. Ladies and gentlemen, I put this first because I believe that this is the absolute foundation of healthy longevity and a successful life. The ability to be mindful, to be able to be present more than what we are now. Again, we can't always be present. We tend to multitask, which we really don't do because our brains can only handle one thing. We just do two or three things less as well as if we were focusing on one. And so to find that which makes you, and we're all different, become more present, even if it's for seconds to begin with, and then grows to minutes, and then, who knows? And, someone can be mindful driving. So you're not in some altered state. You're just maybe more aware of, like where I am now in New England, of the foliage and the colors. And or the fact that there's wet leaves on the ground, that's a potential danger. And you're present, you're there. You're not thinking, oh, I'm going to be late. Oh, what did that person say to me? Oh, what's on television tonight? What am I having for dinner? All of those things. Again, we're human. That happens. But what we must do is spend more of our time mindful, aware. Remember, life is a series of moments. You miss those moments by having your head elsewhere. You miss your life. Gratitude. This is something very basic. Everyone understands it. But when we really grasp what this is being half full, because this is being positive. This is about focusing on the more positive things. The world is full of a lot of negative, and it's filled with a lot of positive. Your life is. Any situation, again, like COVID, you can focus on the negative, and sometimes that's unavoidable, and you have to in order to minimize the negative. But focusing on the positive is a much more powerful approach to resilience, healthy longevity, success in life, successful relationships, and it just gives you a totally different outlook on your life. Focusing on the negative, as you might say, we find that people who are very sick and experience a lot of pain, if they begin to focus on the positive, that pain diminishes. Just that alone will diminish the pain. And I believe that's a metaphor for the kind of pain we experience when we focus on the negative and we see only the negative aspects of life. They're there. I'm not saying Pollyanna, they're not there. But if it's something you need to address it. Remember, fix it or make a plan to fix it. Walk away if it's not yours, or accept it. It's real, and focus on the other positive things that may be related to it, or just other positive things. You can do this, and many people start with I'm going to have when I wake up in the morning. I'm going to say I'm thankful for one little thing. Some people keep gratitude journals, and that starts a whole process of focusing and looking for the positive. Flexibility. We've talked about this. In nature, inflexibility usually results in things being broken, and it's the same with us as humans. Flexibility is having a growth mindset, being open, empathetic. Is about realizing you're not the only ship in this ocean. You're not the only person around, and that we're social beings, and that we live in societies. And building resilience requires us to be flexible. It's not being wishy-washy. It's not giving up. It's like I said before. You may say in an argument, you may be right. They can interpret that any way they like. You're not saying you think they're right or that they are right, but you're allowing for them to have their opinion, and you're not forcing them to be wrong, to discover or to come to the conclusion that they're wrong. By the way, you probably never have convinced someone that they're wrong in your life. Maybe once So arguments are almost futile. Discussions are different. You may learn from it, especially if you approach them with an open mind. But approaching them with a closed mind or with one where I'm going to make you know that you're wrong is never comes out that way. So stay connected. We are social beings. You've heard it. You heard it last year. You've heard it multiple times this year. And where you're living, what an opportunity and what a great decision. Because, as I've said, isolation is the usual, more and more isolation is the usual trajectory of lives in our societies. And that is associated with much more higher incidences and prevalence of dementia, heart disease, and cancer. Being with people as this is fun. Now, I know people are annoying. They can be annoying, but we need each other. We're better together. And as we get older, it is particularly incumbent upon us to make the extra efforts to keep friendships, because you can't make old friends. Think about it. You can't. But also to make new friends and to be open and empathetic. And with emotional intelligence, wow, this is like the gold standard. This is like a free pass to new friends and social connection. And so for resilience, but also for success and for healthy longevity. We are meant to be with others and intergenerational. That's not reflected here, but an intergenerational contact with others is particularly beneficial to both the younger and the older. It's really not it's non-negotiable. Without social connection, we wither. And with social connection, we are allowed to grow and be healthy. And lastly, remember that your view is unique. And as I said, we go through life with somewhat like blinders on, but so is everybody else's view unique. And so we're all different and we've all have different experiences that have, I won't say mold, but have brought us to where we are today, that have affected us. And that's exciting. Authors love that because they know everyone has a story, everyone. And so novelists and autobiographical people, I mean, they just know there's no end to resources for stories or for biographies because everyone has a story. But it's important that we understand that it's not just you navigating the world and to hell with everybody else, or everybody else must be wrong, or everybody else doesn't care. That again, it's a one-way street to isolation. And you're in a place that where we tend to reflect the values of our peers, and you're in a place where people have decided to live there for particular reasons, good reasons, health and social connection. So please take advantage of it. Sometimes we can get lazy and maybe just have a small cluster of people, which is okay, but you have an opportunity to every day have an exciting adventure with others and to learn a story that you hadn't had before. We're as humans, we are storytellers. We have always been storytellers. That is how we communicate. And so, meeting others and being open to them, listening at least as much as you talk. It would be better to even listen more and get us less into trouble and learning a whole lot more. But it's a great opportunity. You have made a great decision, so please capitalize on it. So you've seen this slide before, but I love it because this is sort of the overarching goal of what we've been talking about now for 2 years. Yes, healthy longevity is it, but it's about creating a life that feels good on the inside and not just on the outside. Namely, that we can, in our lives, we sometimes get sidetracked with things that we feel are important. And in the end, and we see this, I've particularly seen this on deathbeds with people. In the end, those things mean nothing. And what usually meant something was relationships, love, our relationships with other human beings, and emotional intelligence, resilience. All of these things we've talked about help us to have the kind of experience that we would not have regrets. And we know that that certain things were very meaningful to us, and that our life wasn't wasted. So, and a life with resilience, very important, because again, as COVID showed us, and as we age, we're in a risky situation, so to speak. We're more and more likely. I know many of you are probably losing friends. I've been losing friends, and it's mostly relative to the number of friends or what's happening to friends. It's mostly kind of bad news rather than good news, but it's all right. We're still here, and there is good news. And if something else comes down the road, as it will, disease, loss, grief, sickness, injury, with resilience, which is all of those things, all the traits that we need, but also the social support that we need. And that would come from a life of living the characteristics that we need for resilience. We can make it, and we can bounce back and be the best that we can be after whatever has happened. That's what we've been shooting for this year. I hope you've enjoyed the journey, because I certainly have enjoyed it very much, even though most of it's been virtual. And I hope that changes soon. And I hope you take advantage of the recordings for the last 2 years. So there's at least 12 programs out there now, and some writings, articles. And you'll be hearing very soon what next year has for us. And I am, for one, am very much looking forward to doing that. So there we are. We're looking for a healthy longevity. You're in the right place. And how about we handle some questions, Kai?
That sounds great. Thanks, Roger. Yeah, so if you have any questions, please chat. You can use the Q&A or the chat feature and type in those questions.
I had the privilege of some live presentations in the last couple weeks, and boy, do I ever love them, because to be with people and be able to see you, and I think people tend to be a little more likely to raise their hand and ask questions and things. So, but we can do it with this way, but whatever it
Absolutely.
takes.
Yeah, and I just love what you said about um, bouncing back, and I think it's so important as we bounce back from anything is that support that we get from others. And I know you talked about both those things, but I think it's so important. And we want to be so independent, which is great, of course. But I also think that asking for help is it's a superpower to be able to do that.
Yeah, and women do that better than men, actually. And I think that's one of the reasons they tend to live longer. There are several, but I've had seen some people say thank you. Excuse me a minute. And Sarah has arranged for me to do this with full appreciation and awareness that many of you are living this life. But that being said, we all kind of need validation periodically that this is very valuable. And so I know I do. And so it is not with the idea that you as listeners or the people that Sarah deals with feel you don't do these things. It is their desire that you continue to grow and validate it.
Yep, I agree. I think just our a chat that came in, just thank you for reinforcing this great material. And I think that's so true, right? I mean, uh, a lot of you, we know it, but sometimes it's that reminder, or it's that one reminder that helps you to focus on that one thing, right? I think you've said it a lot of times, Dr. Roger, you can't focus on everything. And it's so how are you taking those small kites and steps? I think that's always, for me, that's my best reminder, is that kites and way, right? To take those small steps. You're not going from 0 to 60. To just be able to to celebrate those small steps, and those small reminders too. And the question did come in: how likely is it for folks who borderline personality disorder to become more open-minded and begin to practice EQ later in life.
Yes, borderline personality is it's something it's an affliction that many people have. Probably the best to understand it if you think of perhaps an adolescent, maybe one with a little difficulty because they have difficulty focusing on other than themselves. And because of that, they can be rude, and they can push people away. They can seem like totally angry all the time, but it is indeed a disorder, and there are particular therapies for it. And I'm sure that the person probably knows this, but cognitive behavior therapy, we have talked about that in the past. Cognitive behavior therapy basically is trying to intervene in that triangle of thought, emotion, and behavior, and very successful at it. So the answer to the question is it's less likely, they're more at risk, but absolutely, there can be success here. And yes, someone can develop emotional intelligence. It's more of a little bit of an uphill climb because of what they're dealing with, like someone with a knee disorder has had trouble climbing a hill more than someone who doesn't, but it's still possible. And so, absolutely, it is not an absolute barrier. And if someone, I hope that they would take advantage of the potential for cognitive behavior, read about it, and remember Kaizen, small steps, so that even someone with borderline personality disorder say, you know, I don't want to do it, but today I'm going to be nice to one person for one small thing. I'm going to make sure that I don't offend them just once, even if it's just seconds, even if it's a cashier, not anyone who's very notable in their lives. Just I maybe smile with someone on the street. I may have to force it, but I'll smile. And you get positive feedback from that. And that ultimately can change someone's general outlook to one that's more half full rather than half empty. And so again, it's difficult, but using a Kaizen method of very, very small steps. And again, someone may have to bite their tongue, so to speak, in order to start, but a very small thing. I'm going to try it, just one small thing. And I think that is leads to something that, as with Kaizen in general, leads to competence and self-confidence that you can make some change, even if it takes a while.
Yep. I think you can never say that enough, right? Those small steps. And I read somewhere just recently about um, doing something nice for someone else and no one knowing about it.
Oh,
Doing that once a day. Um, I think that's just
well,
kind of a fun
we
thing to
all
do.
hear about it, especially this time of year, that giving
Right.
is better than receiving, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it truly is. I mean, I think the endorphins that we feel, and the oxytocin and the serotonin, all of these feel good things flow freely when we do something nice for someone else. So there's positive feedback to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you may get someone who's so entrenched and with a fixed mindset or whatever, and it may fall flat, but don't give up, because I would think that about 9 times out of 10, it'll be a positive response.
Yep.
Well, looks like
I
we answered
agree.
all the questions during this year, Kai. Huh?
We did. I can't believe it. It is the end of 2023.
Almost calendar wise, but certainly for our part in it.
Yep.
And I'll speak for you, Kai, but I'll let you speak for yourself, how you've felt about this year.
Yep. Oh, it really has been just wonderful, and just, ups and downs, and of course gone really fast.
Well,
Um,
yes.
but I do think it's the daily reminder of the small things, and I think when I talk to my dad on the phone, and my mom, but that's a lot of times what he'll mention, watching the sunset, just sitting outside, or having those small moments of just joy. I think that's always a great reminder, and especially during this time, as we're getting toward the end of the year. So
So I
that's
saw
what I try
someone
to do.
was asking, thank you, Kai. I saw
Mhm.
someone was asking where they might find the other recorded sessions. You maybe Sarah only knows, but if they know what that MTL is, that might be where they are. But if not, then Sarah will be returning, and when she does, I would get in touch with her or someone at Blue Star, and because they'll know where these are.
Yep, and
Very
we'll get
very
this.
easy to.
Yeah, and we'll get this one sent out to Sarah so she can also upload this as well. I saw someone say that thought this was a little later today, so we are recording this, and we'll get that up on the platform.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kai, very much.
You're welcome.
Have a nice Thanksgiving and holiday season. Thank you all for joining. I hope you also have a wonderful holiday season. And I look forward to next year. And I know Sarah is getting very creative and some new things. You're not just the old doc here. It'll be other things. And so I look forward to being part of that. And I hope you join us and catch those recordings if you haven't before. Stay well, everybody.